extraordinary music.
What's going on, Masterclass family? This is your boy, Mr. Adams, bringing you the Black Friday trades of the day. Reason I say trades because there were a lot of great opportunities today. So there are several that I want to point out. I think it's only fair considering that the ones I'm going to point out had our ideal setup. So it's important that I capture and capitalize on those opportunities so that we can all learn and grow and develop and make money together. Today was special because in the pre-market between 8:30 and 9:30, there were a lot of great opportunities, a lot of things that looked great. You had your financials, your banks that looked good for married setups. You had your energy stocks that looked good for marrieds and golds, pharmaceuticals. A lot was going on. So you have so many opportunities and a little capital. What you want to do is give the market an opportunity to settle. You never want to jump straight in because you don't know how the market is going to open. So it's best to let 5, 10, 15 minutes to pass so that you can sort the wheat from the grass, from the grain, from the good stuff, so that you can have a better entry and a better plan of action. So to start off, I want to start with the VRX. I just scanned this chart. I didn't catch this trade today, but it's certainly worth doing a review on it because the opportunity was phenomenal, especially considering that it's a lower ATR stock on a Friday, which means that the returns on this are going to be outrageous. First thing we always look for is previous day's consolidation, and as you can see, VRX consolidated yesterday, which is a positive sign. Going into today on the 5-minute chart, if we look at the pre-market up in here, we can see that VRX is a gold setup, and the candlesticks began to tread the previous day's high. That's something that we look for. Both of your money flows were positive with a lot of volume. That's really good to see. I would consider this a married setup. It's not that far apart to where I would consider it engaged. So I would consider this married. First 5-minute candlestick. The second 5-minute candlestick pretty much filled the gap between the married previous day's high and the pivot point. And your entry would have been on this next candle right here. And before you know it, VRX was absolutely gone. It just took off the rest of the day. Easily a 5-to-1. But if I'm not mistaken, I believe VRX was a 40-to-1 trade. Let's take a look at it on the higher time frames. If we look at VRX on the 1-hour chart, we can see that this is a silver setup. You got most of your moving averages tight together here on a 1 hour. The 200 below as support. Candlesticks above the cloud. It's gone. Meet the criteria for the 1 hour setup. It's pretty much the same thing on the 30-minute. Above the cloud, silver setup. If we take a look at the daily chart for VRX, it formed a flag. They had earnings not too long ago where it gapped up, came back, tested to 200 and some other levels. It took off again. Here's the flag pole right here. This will be the flag pole that I scale up. It came down. That's your flag. That's the actual flag, and it broke out today, gone. So let's take a look at the options chain. For VRX, the 1850 calls went from 3 cents to 125. That's literally a 40-to-1 trade. You could have made 40 times your money on that trade. The 18 calls went from 10 cents to 171. That's 17 times your money. So that's VRX. Let's take a look at another trade with a similar setup today. I believe that was Best Buy. Same setup as VRX. Best Buy, if we take a look at it, had previous day's consolidation. You got a married setup on a 5-minute chart for the day. It's gold in a little bit of pre-market that we have. You had a quick pullback for the first 10 minutes. Then this candle here exploded. The entry could have been on this candle here at 950 that tested the VWAP on this slight pullback, because you never want to enter on a large candle unless you entered down here on a previous low. And Best Buy, it took off for the rest of the day. Same setup as VRX. Somewhat problematic because you don't have dual money flow, but you have to use judgment on that, on how strict you want to be on your rules if something really looks good. I believe Best Buy was a 19-1. If we take a look at it on the on the higher time frames, on the 1 hour, same situation. The stock is silver setup above the cloud. It's gone on the 1 hour. You had somewhat of a TTM squeeze here on the 1 hour chart as well. Going on a 30-minute, which is similar to the 1 hour chart. If we take a look at what's going on the daily chart, let's see here. All right, Best Buy, ever since it had earnings, and with it being a holiday season, the stock has just been tearing the bears to pieces. I mean, it's just been skyrocketing up. You had another flag here, just like you had on VRX. Went straight up. Here's your flagpole. Came down 1, 2, 3 days. Boom. Broke out again today, giving you a really great trade. I believe, once again, it was a 19-1. If we take a look at the options chain, the 62 call options, they opened at 10 cents, went as high as 190 and closed at 190. That's 19 times your money on Best Buy today. Next, let's take a look at United Healthcare. That's going to be symbol UNH. For United Healthcare, once again, it's the same setup, family. It's the same thing over and over. You have a somewhat consolidation previous day from 12 o'clock to 4 o'clock at market close yesterday. Once again, you have somewhat of a married setup here. I would consider that gold. All of those moving averages are fairly tight together. First 20 minutes, the stock stayed trapped between the previous day's high and a pivot point. That's 5, 10, 15, 20. Fifth candlestick broke out. You could have entered there, and it took off for the rest of the day. I believe United Healthcare gave us a 7-1 to where you could have made 7 times your money. Looking on the different time frames, I believe the hourly is slightly different than the other two. You did have a TTM squeeze. That lets you know that a big breakout was coming. You have a silver setup here on the hour. 3 moving averages tight together, 200 spread apart. And the stock ran up into the cloud as resistance, which could have been your exit when it hit the cloud. Typically, you would like for the stock to be above the cloud, but since it was a silver here, you could use your discernment if you still wanted to take that trade, assuming that you found that on your scan. The 30-minute looks the same. Well, in fact, I would say that the 30-minute chart is giving you a gold here. All of these moving averages are together. Stock broke above the 50 in the cloud. For me, this would have been problematic. You know, I like to stick to my rules. But the setup still worked. Taking a look at it on the daily chart. On the daily chart, after earnings, stock gapped up. Had a good run for a couple weeks. They formed another flag. Boom, here's your flagpole. Came down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days. It rested on the 10-day moving average with a hammer from yesterday. The hammer did not close below the 10-day moving average, and the stock spiked up off of that, giving you a really great trade. You can see all of the money flow right here is positive as well on the daily chart. If we take a look at the options chain, UNH had the 222.50 calls went from 25 cents to 186. That's about a 7-1. So many trades today. We're going to do just one more. I really don't want to make these videos long, but it's important for you to see the same setups over and over, so that once you see the setups pre-market, you know how it's going to play out. COP is one that I underestimated. I saw it pre-market as part of the energy stocks that I put out, but I didn't zoom in on a daily chart to really look at it, and so I didn't put out the alert, and I regret it because it did have a really nice move. Once again, you had somewhat of some consolidation day later in the afternoon. The stock gapped up in the morning, held the 200-day moving average on a 5-minute chart. This is a great married setup with the previous day's high and a pivot. You have a marriage there. The 10-minute, or excuse me, the candlestick at 9:40 closed above the Mary levels and a VWAP, and the stock didn't look back. It gave you a second entry here when it fell back to test VWAP and the 10-day before it took off again, and it just rode the 10-day moving average the remaining of the day. Both of the money flows were extremely positive, which is a good signal. If we take a look at the 1 hour chart for COP, the 1 hour chart moving averages are somewhat sloppy, but it closed above the 200 and it's inside of the cloud. You know, I like for the stock to be above the cloud, but that's one of the situations where you have to use discernment. Taking a look at the 30-minute chart, I believe you have somewhat of the same gold setup here when all of these moving averages form together here at this moment. But the good thing is that it's breaking above the 200 on both of them, and it's going through the cloud. Once again, I don't like for a stock to be in a cloud, but if you have conviction and there's some catalysts and you feel good about it, then you have to make that decision. Still worth doing a video though. What really got me here is this daily chart, and I'm mad that I missed this. As you can see here, we have this blue line is the 50-day moving average on a daily chart. Let me zoom in a little bit closer so you can see it. This blue line is the 50-day moving average. The stock forming a flagpole came back and fell, but it tested and it held the 50-day moving average, which is great. That's a strong signal. Then what you have here is the 10-day moving average and the 20-day moving average merging together like at a perfect point. And that's where the stock opened. And the stock took off from there, which is a very strong bullish signal, considering that all the energy had begun to gap up. And it was just a great trade. And I'm sorry that I didn't zoom in to see that, or I would have immediately put out that alert. Taking a look at the options chain, COP didn't move as big as some of the other stocks. The 50 calls went from 36 cents to 119. I mean, that's a good trade. It's about a 3-to-1. You could have made 3 times your money. You can't be mad at that. It's certainly not a VRX with a 40-to-1, but certainly worth mentioning. So today you had a lot of good moves. Banks gave you a really great opportunity after they sold off in the morning and bounced back. CELG had a really nice rally with the catalyst, especially after being in the demand zone the last couple of days. You could have made some really good money on that. Just too many names to mention. But for today, VRX, BBY, UNH, and COP all were our ideal trading setups, especially on a 5-minute, and certainly worthwhile. Black Friday's trades of the day. Masterclass. Dominate.